Hello, Barry William Maglidity, and thank you for coming back to another episode of the Comeback Game podcast. Today's episode was a really enjoyable one for me. I spoke to Josh Koerpel, and Josh runs a company called, he's a co-founder and CEO of Firebuilders, a new accountability software service that increases engagement and results in courses, masterminds, and programs. Yet it doesn't stop there. He's got an interesting story around how this actually came about and links into a previous episode when I spoke about there being three kind of types of entrepreneurs that I see. Ones that are rebellious and set out to kind of rebel from the system of society and build a business. Two, the accidental entrepreneurs that kind of stumble across something that just takes off, which was absolutely the case in Josh's situation. And three, those that set out to solve a problem for somebody else. We also take an interesting turn because we start to talk about psychology behind goal achievement and goal setting. The app that these guys have developed has got incredible results for keeping people accountable to achieving huge results in a short period of time. And often something we see is that people set these great, big, hairy, audacious goals, but are yet to find a way to systemically and sustainably achieve them. Josh has built a solution around that, and we go a little bit deeper to understand the psychology behind goal setting and how you can absolutely get everything you want, but you have to be willing to let go of a few things as well. We also touch on this notion around people seeing business owners that have stepped back or exited business not caring anymore, which is absolutely not the case and quite the opposite. So if you're in a business right now and you're wanting to achieve more, you're wanting to bring on staff, you may be even at the level where you're wanting to take a step back from the business and start to see it work without you. And you just want to achieve a lot more goals more successfully in life. You're going to get a lot from this episode with Josh, and I'm super excited to share it with you now. Hey, I've got Josh Koerpel on the line from fireburners.io. Josh, let's start with where you're calling in from today.
So right now I am in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, USA.
Fantastic, mate. And I'm calling in from Bali, Indonesia. For those who haven't maybe heard of you, seen you before, just want to start with sharing a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
Sure. Yeah. Well, so I am a software developer here in Pittsburgh. And this is where I was kind of born and raised. But to be honest, I am in the middle of a cross-country motorcycle trip across the United States, kind of promoting this new software. And I've done a lot of different things. I haven't always been into software, but currently for the last few years, I've developed a lot of software as a service solutions for B2B clients.
Yeah. And what specifically is Fishburners? Let's just touch on that quickly while we're having the conversation.
Yeah, it's Firebird, like fire builders, right? I think that's what you're. Yeah. So with fire builders, it's all about personal accountability. That's what actually gets me most excited about this new program, this new platform that we've developed. It's about getting people to improve their own lives and encouraging to improve their own lives through personal accountability from people that they wouldn't normally have access to.
Wow.
So daily inspiration, daily motivation, things like messages that are adapting to them, all from people that are teachers, people that they look up to, etc. So that's what the platform actually does. It's an accountability system used by teachers.
Yeah. First of all, my apologies. I got the name wrong. I've got it written down wrong here first. So firebuilders.io. How did that start about? Was that a kind of something that you're like, hey, I'm noticing that I'm needing some more personal accountability. Maybe I'll just, if I feel like that, there's probably other people feel like that too. Maybe I'll create something around that. Like, how did this start out?
Yeah, well, actually, it's pretty interesting. I built it for my mother. So my mom is an author, and she was having a lot of trouble writing every day. You know, you get, as an author, you know, you kind of get into these waves, and she was in a down slump, and so I rather than, you know, talk to her every single day, and we would get on the phone and stuff. You know, finally it got to a point where it was like, Mom, this is just, I can't, this is not sustainable for me. I'm trying to do all these other things. So how about I build something that helps you with this? And so I went away, and then like, a couple weeks later I came back and I said, here, I want you to start using this. And so for 30 days, I built this whole platform that gave her the feeling, the personal encouragement, and everything from me, right? Every single day, it helped her kind of, spell out her own personal goals for the day, and it kept them top of mind, and it used all of this content and, my sense of humor, because it was all essentially all coming from me. And this worked great. It worked way better than I could have ever imagined. And not only that, but as she was going through this whole 30-day thing, I was telling other people, not just in the family, but like friends and stuff about this, and they wanted to try it, but for different goals. And so that's what happened. So I let them in, and they started using it, and they were hitting their goals. And the whole thing just kind of like grew from that one need to help my mom break through her writer's block.
Wow. I recently recorded an episode with Tad Stevens from Accelerated Funnels, and it's funny. I share with him, we see almost 3 times the people that come to the Game Changers. We see business owners that kind of, the rebellion. They want to go out and do their own thing, and they believe they can create more and do more and earn more and have more through having their own business. Soon to get a rude awakening, but nevertheless, that's one entry point. The second entry point is that they're accidental business owners, which is kind of like what you're talking about here. Like you had a skill set and you created something to fix a problem for someone you care about, because you have the time to do it personally. And then the thing's just taken off like a fire, right? Like a wildfire. And there's a third, people that actually consciously go, hey, it's a problem over here. I'm going to create this and turn it into a business. Outstanding. So how long ago was that? That's incredible.
That was maybe a little over a year ago. And then since then, I built 2 minimum viable products to test the concept on other people. See, the big jump between what I had built before and what we've built now is that a lot of people approached me and wanted to use the system, but didn't want the communication to come from me. It didn't make sense for Josh to be, communicating with these people. They wanted to use it. Well, that required a completely different rebuild. So built that, and at this point, like, because I've built other things before and mobile apps and stuff, and it wasn't necessarily a question of whether I could do it at this point. Like, I knew it could be done. The biggest unknown was how people were going to respond to the content. How was the human psychology going to mix with what we have now built? And that's what I needed to prove, that concept. I needed to prove it. So I built this thing, and now I've run hundreds of people through it. We've proven the concept. It's working great. And now we're in the process of building an actual app that lets us just control a whole bunch more about what we can and can't do.
Wow. How did you solve that? How did you solve that issue? Like, how did you guys start to go around overcoming that aspect of the psychological component?
It was 2 things, actually. Like, honestly, what this does is take 2 old ideas or old, like, existing ideas and put them together into one new idea. The first is just a system, like a way to break down your goals, to take these big, hairy, audacious goals and break them down into something that you'd like to achieve in the week, and then something you'd like to achieve every day. And a lot of people, and I'm sure you've seen, because you've done so much coaching, right? People have trouble with that sometimes. And even if they can break that stuff down, they just need something, some way to keep it top of mind. Because if you don't do that throughout the day, just the day takes over. And so that's idea number 1. And idea number 2 is the emotive power of somebody that they respect and admire. So for your clients, that would be you. For my mom, it was me. Like, it could be anybody. If you're learning how to take landscape photography, panoramic landscape photography, maybe it's Peter Leak. Or if you're learning how to cook, maybe it's friggin' Emerald or whatever. So whoever that is, I partner with people like that to make all of the correspondence come from them. So, so those two things combined, the accountability system and the emotion of having somebody like, Peter Leak looking over your shoulder and keeping you up to date with what you should be doing, those two things combined have worked fantastic for people. They've worked miracles for folks.
And speaking of that, like what sort of, this is fascinating. What sort of, I guess, results or what sort of outcomes have you noticed through this? Like I imagine you've done a lot of, data analysis and research and things. What have you noticed?
Yeah, well, so, I mean, just for one, engagement is so much higher. We've seen, upwards for when people have programs like this, upwards to 80% open rates on just the communication, the emails. It used to be just email, and now we've built in text messaging into that too as a feature. So, so very high open rates and engagement. That's right off the bat. That's what you see. But one of the coolest things that you get out of this are, well, here, let me get, like, I'm sure you've done surveys and stuff before, trying to ask people what they want, right? Trying to get that data back. Well, that's a good and a bad thing. The surveys, on one hand, you try and, you're limited to the amount of data that you get, but you try and get as good of data as you could possibly get from people. But at the same time, sometimes, most times, in my opinion, it's not always correct. Like, people say things, but they don't do them, right? They, when you give those surveys out, they kind of talk about what they wish they were doing or what they wish, they could do, as opposed to what they're really doing. And that's, for somebody that's a course creator or wants to drive engagement, that's of no help, that kind of information. So what this does, the kind of data that we get back, are people's daily goals that they're setting for themselves, what their weekly goals are, what they're achieving on a daily basis. And if they don't hit that goal that they set for themselves, why not? Because, and we ask them to describe that really, usually it's just a short little blurb, but we do that to try and find patterns in people's lives, right? So they can identify their own patterns. So with that data in mind, not only is it very, very honest data from people, but also as a marketer, because I do a lot of marketing, like as a marketer, it's the best marketing material you could ever ask for. I mean, the people that are using your program, their hopes and their dreams and their fears and what they want and how they act and what holds them back, like all of that good stuff, you have to pay tens of thousands of dollars to get this kind of thing, and you're getting it on a daily basis from everybody as they're helping themselves. So the results have just been great, and people have really commended this program as helping them stay on track.
It's very, very interesting. And I love the concept, and I get how it works. It reminds me of, have you ever heard of the game The Wish?
No, what is it?
Right. So there was this game that I played, God, it must have been 10 years ago. I was with a couple of friends in Northern Beaches of Sydney, and they're like, let's play the Wish game. I'm like, what's the Wish game? Is it some like spin the bottle or something like that? And they're like, no, like it's an actual game. And it was a board game with an infinity kind of track on it. And there's these different cards. And essentially at the start of it, you write down a wish that you would like to come true, whatever that is. And then you all start in the center. You pick a crystal to kind of take you on your journey. And then you roll. And every time you land on a space, you get to pick up a card. Now, to finish the game, you have to either end up back in the middle on the heart part again, or you have to collect 8 of these pearls of wisdom cards. But the interesting thing is as you go through, there's 8 different oracle cards. Some are like universal truths. Some are like the biggest blockages are. And I know this is sounding woo-woo, but it was ridiculous how accurate this was when you went through. Now, I had myself and another buddy of mine, Clint X. Morgan, who's a previous podcasting guest. I was coaching him at the time, and he was in a very challenging financial situation, living on the couches of people, had no money. And he wished for a lot of stuff around his finances. He now runs an incredibly successful organization that's impacting thousands of people. And he attributes a lot of it to this wish game because it brings up your limiting beliefs and your blockages. Something I noticed recently is there's actually, and where I was getting to with this, is there's actually an app version where you type it in the app, and every time you get onto like, you pick up a card and it's like, oh, universal truth of our thoughts are creative. What does this mean for you? You have to type in what that means for you. So these people are collecting all of this data, right, around what your limiting beliefs are, what your blockages are, what's holding you back from having what you want, to obviously be able to further use for marketing purposes. But the game itself is as woo as it sounds, it's very, very powerful.
Well,
And
I like the fact that that it forces them to articulate their feelings, like the people that are playing it, because I think that's a huge step forward in being able to get what you want in life, is to be able to not keep it inside, but actually put it out there.
yeah, and I think games like that, and equally to the platform that you guys have built, are incredibly phenomenal from the sheer fact that the data you collect, you're able to further use to reiterate that operating system, to hone it down, to perfect it, to get it working better. And I know that goal achievement is something that's very popular amongst entrepreneurs and business owners, but yet many don't achieve goals, which to me has always seemed interesting, because as you said, there's a system. There's like, okay, if we have a process of how to make the perfect coffee, we're just reverse engineering the steps of how to make a perfect coffee. Now, achieving a goal is the same thing. We're just reverse engineering it. But the difference being is that often we haven't got the belief, or we haven't had past experience of achieving the goal that we want. So there's a whole bunch of interpersonal stuff that's getting in the way from us getting what we want, because if there was nothing getting in the way, we'd have it already. And it sounds like your platform helps them in many ways too, to start to move through a lot of the mindset shifts that are required, and the blockages they have to keep them consistent. Because I think that entrepreneurs, people in general, we overestimate what we can achieve in a short period of time, and we underestimate what we can achieve in a long period of time. And I think that if we set a goal and every day we're taking a step towards it, we're eventually going to get there, right? But a lot of people give up too soon, and it sounds like your platform helps prevent that from happening.
I think you're right, and you're right about the consistency part. I think that when most people give up, what I've seen is that they don't believe it's possible, and then what further sort of like stops them, slows them down, is the fact that they aren't feel like they're making progress in any way, shape, or form. They're so stuck, and a lot of times, like that's just not true. It's just that it's very easy to focus on the stuff that you're not doing, and it's very easy to focus on the stuff that you're not doing and completely forget about all of the great things that you've achieved throughout the week. And that's actually one of the things that we try to do in this is every week, you're fed back all of the achievements that you've done. So at the end of the week, you can actually see and reiterate to yourself all of the like badass stuff that you've been able to achieve over the week, and feel better about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree. And it's just been, I hope that we can hone it down and get it to really where we want. But it's just been a blast so far, creating this thing and watching people go through.
Yeah, it sounds like you're definitely on the right path. And, to kind of add to what you said before, like so often we compare ourselves to the end goal, and we see that we're not there yet. And we allow the reality that we're not there yet, and the comparison of maybe ourselves to others and what they're achieving, or the perception of what they're achieving, to prevent us from having the consistency and the stamina to see things through to success. And I guess that's one of the biggest things that I've learned personally, and I've been reflecting a lot lately, is where I'm at, is that I was super ambitious when I started in business, but I was super unrealistic as well. I set massive goals, never achieved them. But if I look back now, I've achieved all my goals, pretty much all my goals I've ever had until this point in time. They just took me a lot longer than I first thought, because I was like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner, I'm working on my mind, I'm working on my strategy, like I've got all this shit going on. But the reality is that I was way too optimistic, which a lot of entrepreneurs are as well, right? Yet, if we focus more on progress over perfection, and if we focus more on every day moving towards that end outcome, which is, it sounds exactly like what you guys are kind of helping people to be conditioned for, you're eventually going to get there. But you're probably going to enjoy the journey and have a lot more fun along the way than if you keep doing things the way you've been doing it and constantly focusing on where you're not or what's not going well.
Yep. I totally agree. In fact, I just wrote a blog post about this very topic. It was and it was because I spent about 2 months motorcycling around the Himalayas back in 2008, and and you're up there in India, northern India, and you just like there are times where you just don't see anybody for like days. It's
Mm.
just totally barren. You've got the entire road to yourself, and I use the term road loosely, but you get the entire place yourself. And I remember there was one day where this figure appeared on the horizon and kept getting larger and larger, but it looked odd. And as I got closer to it, I realized that it was a girl on a pedal bike, and she was in the middle of nowhere. Like, we were probably 8,000 feet up in the Himalayas, and we were just like, what the hell are you doing here? And so I stopped, she stopped, and we started talking. And it turns out that she has been pedaling all the way from Norway. She came across Europe, across Asia. It was into India, like, went through Afghanistan, Pakistan, parts of Iran. Like, it wasn't quite a straight shot, but she went through there and was making it all the way to Vietnam. And I found this fascinating because looking back on it, I think that you're exactly right. Like, when you have a goal that's that big, that's audacious, it just sort of becomes a marker, like a reason for the suffering, an obscure reason for the suffering, right? But I think, and when we talked about it, like, it was the day-to-day journey that really
Yeah.
kept her going. It was those times where you'd have like a really early morning and you're sitting there drinking chai with a whole bunch of truck drivers on on like a Dava bus, a truck stop in the middle of nowhere. Or I asked her about Afghanistan and what in the hell was it like as a single little blonde girl from Norway by herself on a bike in Afghanistan. And she said, everything that you have heard about the dangers, I didn't see any of it. It was the exact opposite. People were so friendly and so welcoming. It was incredible. Anyway, I think that she got addicted to the journey. And I feel like that's a really good analogy for just the entrepreneurial journey in general.
Yeah. I had a earlier episode this morning recorded with a lady, Heather, who's a human behavioral expert. And, one thing I was chatting to her about was a conversation that I actually had with many of our members the other week, which is around, trying to find a way, like, you have to find a way to fall in love and enjoy the challenge, to find a way to enjoy being uncomfortable. Because if you're only seeking to get pleasure and joy out of like the perceived like good times or achieving goals, you're limiting your human experience. Because I wouldn't even say that's necessarily 50% of the entrepreneur journey being like goal achievement and feeling like great and amazing. Like, certainly it hasn't been the case in my way. It's probably been more likely like 70% of like challenges and pain and struggle and like
Same,
30%
yes, same with
pleasure
you.
at the best. But one thing that's significantly changed my life these past few years is finding joy and appreciation in the challenges. And, something happens, I'm like, yeah, it's cool. What are we going to learn from it? And being lighthearted towards it has allowed me to take a lot of pressure off myself, off my team, and off the whole entire experience. And, that in many ways is flipped now where, there's maybe only 10 or 20% is like painful and challenging, and the rest is like joyful because I've built a relationship. I've built a resourceful relationship with feeling uncomfortable.
And do you think that have you desensitized yourself to the feeling of uncomfortableness, or have you just stopped caring about whether or not you were afraid and just went for it?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I don't know. I don't know if I've necessarily stopped caring. Like, I still care, but I guess I've conditioned myself more so to realize that my thoughts aren't me. My thoughts aren't my reality. I have the ability to change my thoughts at any one point in time, and they're one aspect of me. And so for me, I've learned a lot more to, I guess, sit in my heart, right? To sit in that place in my heart where I feel connected to everything And often, most of the time, my heart guides me or leads me somewhere that I've got no perception of what the outcome could be. You know, for a lot of years, I've tried to live my life from the brain, which most people do. And whenever we make a decision with the brain, we're analyzing it based on past experiences. So if we've had a less than fortunate past experience, we're analyzing this potential experience as that, because that's the memory we have of something that relates to it. Might not have been the same, but relates to it. Whereas when we're living, what I'd say is like a heart-centered life, and we're connected with all that is, our heart gives us guidance. We have feelings of like, oh, I feel to go this way. It might be uncomfortable, it might be painful, there might be a massive big unknown, but to almost find like wonderment and joy in the unknown, like, oh, what's going to happen here? You know, but equally too, it's like yesterday I took my bike, rode my motorbike from Nusa Dua to Canggu. It was like an hour in Indonesian traffic. Now, I'm not sure if you've ever been to Bali, but it's freaking hectic. And I must admit, the whole way up there, like I reckon every second I was thinking about like just surviving, because you hear some of these stories of people dying. Gets worse. Went to leave last night and it was pissing down with rain at like 11 p.m. at night. So now I'm riding in the pissing rain an hour on a bike in Indonesia with crazy traffic. But to me, it felt okay. And through that trip, I was guided of where to sit in the traffic, where to turn, and I felt completely comfortable and safe the whole way along. Sure, I had my wits about me, but I remember in the past that I haven't listened to that. You know, my heart's been like, don't do this, don't do that. And I've been like, no, but it makes logical sense. And I've done it and things have just gone to shit. Yeah. So I guess, I don't know if that answers your question specifically, but around that way, I've built a stronger relationship with my heart, which I feel is like the real me. And I've allowed my brain to have dialogue, but I've also questioned it. And I think that this is something we don't do enough. We have some thoughts come through and we're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. We don't stop to go, what else could it be? What's another way I could do this? And so I guess that's the point. It's like, oh, I'm feeling really uncomfortable right now. A lot of us is like, don't do it, as opposed to cool, like what else could this be? You know, what could this feeling be bringing to my life? How could I choose to see this feeling or choose to feel this feeling?
Yeah, exactly. And to be open, right? Like you're saying, just to be open and to experience whatever comes. And I feel like some people hear that and they immediately hear, well, you're just, you've stopped caring for your own, self-preservation, right? You're just going to let things happen. And that's not what I think you mean. And that's not what I mean. I think, I think it's just a question of, like you said, not using your past experiences to stop you from experiencing something new, right? From maybe pushing yourself to a vision that you have for the future, as opposed to just continuously, living in the past.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like people could see it as not caring. Like take business, for example. Like I recently exited my company operationally. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck when first point is when they first start to hire staff, because they're the technicians, they're doing everything, they hire staff. And of course, staff can't do it as good as them, as fast as them, as efficient as them, the way they want it, all this other sort of stuff. And so that's where a lot of business owners stop. They're like, okay, cool, I just have to do this on my own. I can't find good staff. And then there's many stages along the way, but the significant stage that I was at is like, cool, I'm going to step back. Now, stepping back, like relies and allows a lot of trust in your team, but you can't do that if you're a control freak. And I think that's what grows a lot of great businesses in the beginning, is the fact that the entrepreneur cares so much and is a control freak. And that might get you to $1 million a year turnover. But what's going to prevent you getting to 10 million is that same mentality and attitude, because it's almost the opposite of what you need. Like at that $1 million mark, you need to start building out teams. You need to start building out systems, processes. You need to start relinquishing control and allowing mistakes to happen. Because when those mistakes happen, it's showing you your blind spots. It's showing you where you haven't got the right people in place, the right systems or processes. But if you're trying to go through life having the perfect life or building the perfect business and trying to avoid pain and failure and shit like that, like you're grossly limited what's actually possible for you. And so I wouldn't say, like, for those people that are watching, listening, it's not caring. It's actually caring so much to allow people to have a human experience, knowing that you can change things at any point in time. And I relate back to Richard Branson, when he was asked around like you've taken a lot of risks in business. He's like, I've never taken any risks. He said, anytime there's something that I need to decide on, I ask myself two questions. The first question is, what's the worst case scenario? If I make this decision, what's the worst thing that could happen to me or my people or my business? He said, then the second question I ask is could I handle that if it happened? He said, if the answer is no, I just don't make that decision.
Yeah.
Like if
Simple.
we're in bankruptcy or fatality or something, like I'm not going to make the decision. But if it's like, oh, well, we might lose, a few $1,000s or whatever the case may be, but at least we tried something different. Absolutely. Let's go for it. So I think not taking yourself seriously and equally too, being okay not to get caught up in other people's opinions. Other people's opinions of you are none of your business. They're their opinions.
Yep. Yeah, that I agree. And I'm a big proponent of, there are some people that have done what you are trying to do. And those people are worth listening to if they, give you creative criticism or feedback or something like that. It's those people. But very rarely do I find that people limit themselves to that subset of people, right? They'll take criticism from everyone. And, you find,
exactly.
And I found this out, you really do, whenever you create a software and you put it out, to the masses, it becomes theirs, right? It no longer becomes your baby. Now it's the world's baby. And people use it in different ways, things that you could have never imagined, but they also criticize it in different ways too, because their impressions and expectations of this one thing that you have created is a little bit different than theirs. And you really do have to learn to shut that out in a way, and to not take it so seriously as far as all of the people that come at you and say, oh, well, it should be this, you need to change that. And so it's a balance, but I definitely agree that trying to make that as simple as possible and saying, what's the worst that can happen? Can I handle it? Easy.
Yeah. And I think too, I've heard so many people share, like the more successful you become, the more haters you have. Like it's part of human nature because you're interacting with more people. And, there's always going to be people's biases that show up that don't agree or like or want to pull you down. Like especially in Australia, we have a thing there called tall poppy syndrome where, the moment you kind of grow too high, you have these people that just want to cut you down. I know that the States, it's quite the opposite. People are around kind of lifting themselves up, and they'll rent some shitty apartment to drive around in a fantastic car to kind of show everyone how good they are. But it's an interesting journey. And what I'd be curious to know, Josh, is like over your past years of business and entrepreneurship and life, what do you kind of deem as being the best advice you've ever been given?
Well, the very first thing that comes to mind is that the work will always teach you the work. I think that too many people wait to learn it all before they go and take and produce something and put it out into the world, right? They wait for perfection, or they wait to feel like they feel comfortable enough knowing what they need to know to handle every situation. And like I have an engineering background, and if we waited to do that to create these projects, like nothing would ever get done, nothing. And so you have to understand that in order to learn anything, you have to do the work, and that will teach you how to do it, right? So very much in line with making mistakes and being comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. That to me is like the mantra for entrepreneurship. The work will teach you the work.
Yeah, I love that. The work will teach the work. It's so true. And part of that is that trusting process that you're always where you need to be, and you're always, I believe that, God, the universe never gives us what we want, gives us what we need, And if we're able to see that and ask those questions, we stop seeing things as roadblocks or challenges or stuff that pisses you off, and we start seeing things as opportunities and blessings and guidance in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, my dad always used to say that I've never looked this up, so I don't know if it's actually true, but that the Chinese character for what was it? Struggle or panic, something that had a huge negative intonation. But there was a Chinese symbol, and it was made from two concepts. It was like, chaos and opportunity, and those two things put together made this one. God, I wish I could remember. Anyway, point is, point is, horrible story. Point is that that you can find the opportunity in some, in the darkest of times. It's just a matter of how you look at it.
Absolutely. Shift your perspective and shift your outcomes. Yeah. Mate, how can, if people want to connect with you, find a bit more about the great work you're doing with firebuilders.io, how can they connect with you and find you?
Yeah, well, to keep up with it, if you just go to firebuilders.io, there's a wait list currently. And the blog itself is got some great material in it. And that's actually going to be following my journey across the states. And then I also, I'm on Facebook, just Josh Koerpel, and Instagram, which is Saltwater CEO.
Yeah, Saltwater CEO. Outstanding. Mate, I've really enjoyed chatting with you today. Thank you so much for everything you've had to share. I trust that the viewers and listeners have got a bunch out of this. And if they can do me a huge favor and jump onto iTunes and give us a 5-star review, I'd be mostly appreciated. Get us climbing the ranks and get the Comeback Game podcast in front of more listeners as well. Thanks so much for your time today, buddy.
Okay, thank you. This was great. Had a great time. Thank you.
If you're in a position that many of our clients were before joining us, which is that your business is controlling you rather than you controlling your business, we would love to have a chat to you to see whether or not we might be the right fit to partner with you to help you grow and succeed in business. And over the past 8 years, we've helped hundreds of business owners around the world to grow, scale, and succeed in business. Many of our clients report that we've helped them to triple their profits and double their time off in 12 months or less. If you jump onto YouTube and notice the hundreds of testimonies, you'd see that this is a common theme amongst them. If you're a business owner that's generating more than $300,000 a year in annual revenue, whether it's $500 million, $5 million, even $10 million a year, and you're looking to take your business and your life to the next level, we might be able to help. If you're noticing that your business is lacking structure, maybe systems or processes, maybe you're not quite attracting enough or the right type of quality leads, making enough sales, or maybe you're even having issues finding, hiring, retaining, and training the right team members, we could be a fit for you. Ultimately, we believe that we never have business problems, we have personal problems that are expressed through our business. And a lot of the work we do is with you as a business owner, helping you to constantly upgrade the way that you see life, the way that you make decisions, and the way that you help construct a profitable and purpose-driven business. In order for us to do that though, you need to book in a quick 15-minute application call with one of our scaling specialists here at the Game Changers. Through the 15-minute call, we're going to ask you a bunch of questions to see if or how we might better help you. If we can't help you, we'll let you know politely and do our best to point in the direction of someone that can. However, if we can help you, we'll look at booking you a 1-hour game plan session where we're going to dive a lot deeper into where you and your business are at right now, where it is that you want to go in the next 3, 5, and 10 years' time, and what are the potential roadblocks or challenges or even opportunities that are along the journey in order for you to get there faster. If you're really feeling that it's time for you to experience the love and the joy of running a business again, if you're really wanting to experience a business that does actually operate without you while still producing profit, we may very well be the right fit. So book in a 15-minute call, we can have a chat and see where we go from there. My name is Babbo Diddy, and thanks for listening. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk soon.